I'm Alex Fitzpatrick, and this is the Spanish Segunda show, the show where we cast our eye over all 22 clubs in LaLiga Smartbank. You'll be pleased to hear that after last week, match day 18 is a VAR-free zone. Perhaps at times we could do with a referee on this show for Liam and I, though. Liam, how's things?
Yeah, not too bad. Already over the disappointment of another insipid performance and result for my Real Zaragoza boys. I suppose it gets easier over time. How about you let us know about that one and all the other games which have been played so far on match day 18, Alex?
Absolutely. On Friday night, there were two games and a pair of 1-1 draws to open the match day. Mirandés playing on the Friday night for the second week in a row, this time at home to Real Oviedo. Mirandés went ahead thanks to Sergio Cameo in a dominant attacking display, but Oviedo equalised through Matias Ayas with half an hour to go. Over in Madrid, it was one for the purists as bottom side Alcorcón hosted Lugo in my game of the week. The draw no good for Alcorcón, who had to come from behind to get a point after Xavi Torres' penalty, which was equalised in the second half by Juan Hernandez. Saturday's Smartbank began in Burgos, with Malaga looking for their first away win to complement their excellent home form. However, they capitulated in disastrous fashion, falling 3-0 thanks to a double from Pablo Valcarce, a goal from Juanma Garcia, and some calamitous defending to boot. The chasing pack were given a chance to cut Almeria's lead at the top of the table after Umar Sadiq missed the first half penalty against Huesca, and neither side could hit the net. Life under Chisco Munoz hasn't yet brought the change that Huesca wanted. Ahead of this game, Real Sporting were winless in 7 and Fuenlabrada in 8 games. The inevitable happened when they played each other. It was a 1-1 draw, keeping their respective dreadful runs going. Sporting did at least go ahead in this one, the first time they have led a game of football in 656 minutes. Wow, incredible. Real Valladolid bounced back from their defeat against Almeria last weekend to brush away travel-sick Cartagena with ease by 2-0. Both goals coming in the first half. Sean Weisman and Gonzalo Plata on the score sheet. On Sunday, Nafti's unbeaten start as Lega boss continued as Los Pepineros smashed Las Palmas by 4-1. 2 goals in the first half, 2 in the second, and a golazo consolation from Jonathan Vieira when the scores were 3-0. Amorebieta fought back from a goal down to add another point at Lezama, their home away from home, and that was against Real Zaragoza. Alvaro Jimenez added one more to the car wash target for Real Zaragoza before an own goal from Jair levelled it up, and Inigo Orozco left the home side playing with 10 for half an hour. John Bolo's Ponferradina picked up all 3 points to move temporarily into the automatic promotion spots at Can Misses against a goal-shy Ibiza, just 1 goal in 5 games from them. A first half penalty was enough for the visitors. Then Tenerife's OAPs overcame Real Sociedad B's youngsters by 2-0, thanks to a goal from 35-year-old Enrique Gallego and 33-year-old Michel Herrero. Tenerife moves second ahead of the Monday night fixture, which is between Eibar and Girona at Ipurua. Of course, Eibar with the chance to leapfrog Tenerife back into second. Liam, let's start with the leaders. They've given a chink of hope to the chasing pack. After 7 successive wins, they finally dropped points in this 0-0 draw with Huesca.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, Alex, at this stage, we're both of the view this is sort of one of those minor inconveniences en route to promotion rather than a significant stumble. I think, as you mentioned in the results roundup, Huesca have hardly been banging them in under Chisco Munoz, but they haven't conceded many either. I think perhaps for me, the biggest concern for them at the moment would be the goals drying up for Umar Sadiq. He's got 9 in 6 now. I have to say, having said that, I'm really surprised he took the penalty how he took it. He sort of seemed to go for a sort of half Panenka. I don't know what he was trying to do. It was an absolutely shocking penalty. I think he maybe should have taken a bit of advice from some of the other penalties we saw this weekend, including Borja Garcés' penalty, which he absolutely smashed into the top corner. I think that's what you need when you haven't scored for 6 games. I guess it shows he's still confident, but it wouldn't have been what I would have done. I think Ramazani needs to play 90 minutes as soon as possible for them. He's been eased back at the moment, half an hour in this game. I think 1 half last game, wasn't it? So they could do with him back, but these are minor issues at the moment. It was a bit of a stumble, but no more than that. And I don't think there's a pattern yet. But on the other side of the coin, Alex, do you think this result gives Huesca the self-belief to sort of push on and make a genuine playoff challenge?
Not really, Liam. No, 0 shots on target in this game. Granted, they're away to the league leaders, but I'm still not seeing a side that has enough about them at all. I was going to say anything about them really to put a string of wins together and kind of get themselves up the table where they need to be. Huesca took a big risk with the managerial appointment at the beginning of the season with Nacho Ambriz. They cut that short and didn't stick with it. They changed to Chisco Munoz. He got Watford promoted, of course, to the Premier League and then was sacked. And he doesn't seem to have quite got his methods across yet. The 0-0 draw against Almeria means Chisco Munoz and his Huesca side, they've scored just 1 goal in the last 4 games and only 3 in 6 since he took over. And as I say, that sort of form, it's not going to get them anywhere fast, really. Yeah, the defensive record, as you said, is pretty decent. But, 0-0 draws and kind of 1-1 draws are not particularly going to get you anywhere quickly. Speaking of struggling managers, Liam, would it be fair to put Malaga's Jose Alberto Lopez in that category? Is his job under threat at all? Because this defeat against relegation-threatened Burgos was the latest in a long line of poor away results for him.
I have to say, I think this is a bit ridiculous in some ways, Alex. I mean, I think we both agreed that we're not massive fans of him as a coach, but I can't see how you can put this at his blame him for this. I mean, for me, you've just got to be a bit more level-headed about it. And I think a lot of the more level-headed Malaga fans I've seen out there, I mean, I think they are wondering the same as we've wondered in the past. I've seen quite a few views on social media the last 24 hours about this, sort of suggesting maybe this is actually a pretty average side who are performing above themselves because of this fantastic home crowd they have at La Rosaleda, the fantastic atmosphere that home crowd creates, but maybe are shown up for being quite a mediocre outfit when they lose that home crowd and they go on their travels. And I mean, realistically, it was a pretty calamitous performance, as you said. Not a lot of it was to do with how the coach set them up, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, how on earth can you blame the coach for that Keystone Cops defending from Victor Gomez and Mathieu Payben for their third goal, for Burgos' third goal? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me to blame that on Lopez. I mean, do you think he deserves to be staring down the barrel, Alex?
Well, should his job be under threat? No. Is it? There's a very small chance based on that abject kind of away record. And it's not just the record, it's the performances as well. The performances have been particularly poor. But I don't think in the eyes of kind of sporting director Manolo Gaspar, I don't think that he will be looking at that. But there are definitely sounds being made by some of the Malaga faithful on social media about whether or not he is the man for the job. And, people saying, should we get another manager to do the away games? Which I suppose would be a very creative solution. I saw, I think it was either on one of his tweets or it was one of Matt Harrison's tweets who does the GearyCast podcast, the Malaga pod. Fantastic show, saying that last year they played with 2 goalkeepers. They rotated the goalkeeper, so why not rotate the managers? So, but yeah, their form is so contrasting depending on where they play. They're the second best home record in Segunda now, the second best because Almeria had played a game less, and they're level on the same number of points, but Almeria have a better home goal difference. Malaga still undefeated at home, but that home record is paired with the worst, not even a bad one, but the worst, bar none, away records. They're level with the bottom side, Alcorcon, but again with a worse goal difference away from home. Just 3 points on the road, 3 draws that's come from, and only 6 goals scored in 9 games away from home, 19 conceded. Now, I've spoken before about Malaga's home form a few weeks ago, and my basic point at that time on the show was who have they played? Their great home form. Who had they played? And I reeled off all the teams that they played, and it was a list of basically the bottom half of the table at that time. And that was ahead of their 2 matches against the Canary Island sides, who, of course, are both top 6. Malaga subsequently won both. Tenerife are good on the road, so kudos to Malaga for that. But Las Palmas most definitely aren't good on the road. And we talked about the circumstances of that one in terms of the red card and in terms of how good Las Palmas were. For me, clearly the better side. So we don't need to cover that ground again. But after those 2 wins, I saw some Malaga fans with their glass half full asking, wow, if we can sort out this away form, what are we going to be able to achieve in this league? But in my mind, they've been overachieving at home. And my glass is half empty when it comes to Malaga, because my perspective on this one is what happens if that home form falls apart when they start to play some of these better teams. Now, that's a little way off in terms of weeks, because their next home game is Amorebieta, so you'd say they probably should win that one, no disrespect to Amorebieta. But following that, they've got a really tough run at La Rosaleda. So we'll see what happens to that home form. As for Jose Alberto Lopez, like you, I think at the moment they're actually overachieving a little bit. Yes, be concerned about the performance level. On Saturday, the phrase you used, Keystone Cops, calamity defending, I would say, for the mix-up for Juanma's goal. And there's a lot more to be concerned about than just the goals that they conceded as well in that performance. But thinking about where they were last year and where they are now this year, I think a season of not being concerned about the relegation zone, about a scrap down the bottom, and maybe having a little bit of a flirtatious mathematical relationship with the top six until at least March, that would be a step in the right direction, and then see what Jose Alberto Lopez can do in year two. So Malaga were a shambles at the weekend, to say the least, but we have to give some credit to Burgos, Liam. You've been to El Plantío, this season. It's not an easy place to go, is it?
No, it certainly isn't, Alex. I mean, if you go behind there, if you look at the statistics for Burgos, they've taken the lead in 4 home games this season. They've also come from behind to lead in the one I was at against Huesca. Guess how many points they've dropped from those winning positions in those 5 games? The answer is none. They have won all 5 of those games. And I mean, their star man at home is a player that you know very well, of course, Alex, Pablo Butarque, who was once in Mallorca, and he's got 6 goals at El Plantío in 9 games. And when they get in front, that crowd is absolutely awesome, and it lifts them, and they are very, very hard to beat from that point on. So, yeah, I mean, it's going really well for them. And as I say, you must be pleased with Butarque, because he wasn't always one of the shining lights, was he, at Mallorca?
Well, we never saw him, to be honest. He didn't get anywhere near the team, but good luck to him for sure. And he certainly seems to be finding his feet in professional football after a good year at Ponferradina last year, and now with Burgos and turning that into numbers. I think numbers was always his issue. Statistics, how many assists, how many goals does he get? Hard-working player, but he's certainly starting to turn those performances into numbers as well, which is very important in modern football. From one manager who's possibly feeling a little bit of pressure, Jose Alberto Lopez, to another who's definitely feeling a bit of pressure. We finished last week's show wondering whether or not there might be an imminent announcement about a sacking coming out of Asturias. David Gallego at Real Sporting, of course. However, this week, Gallego has had the dreaded vote of confidence. The sporting director, or the sporting director, to be precise, has spoken this week and said that, well, quite frankly, it's disrespectful of you to talk about David Gallego's job. The club believe in his project. They believe in what he's doing at the club. And then following that kind of rallying speech, followed a draw at home to Fuenlabrada. I mean, they did at least take the lead in this one. As I just mentioned earlier in the show, in the results roundup, it's the first time that they've led a game of football in 656 minutes of football, which is a lot of minutes and a lot of games of football. Let's remember, they weren't exactly playing world beaters, though. Fuenla themselves, they're on a dreadful run, and they're now in the drop zone. Still, for Sporting, no Duca for them. He is now clear of COVID. He's travelling back to Spain as we speak, ready to rejoin the squad. But his absence has not helped at all. But then, I mean, the sporting director, interestingly enough, came out and spoke in favour of David Gallego. And perhaps it's him that should be under pressure, because they seem to have put all of their eggs into one basket, the Duca basket, and they're hoping that they don't drop that basket. And at the minute, it's been dropped because obviously he's got the international call-ups, and then on the back of that, he's picked up COVID and he's missing games. And his scoring record this year it's not bad, but it's not quite as good as it was last year. The level of backup that they have in that centre-forward position at Sporting is just not adequate for a team that are aiming for the top 6. Their finances are as they are. Perhaps they couldn't afford a decent backup. I actually have my suspicions that finances is one of the reasons why Gallego is possibly still in the job as it stands. Can they afford to sack him? Who could they afford to bring in as a replacement for him? would they be better than, is it better the devil you know? Would they be better than what they have already? So, I like plenty about Gallegos coaching. Perhaps he just needs a little bit more in terms of tools at his disposal.
Yeah, you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head for me, Alex. I mean, ultimately, look at the situation he's in. I mean, we said at the start of the season, you said at the start of the season, I know it was the preview show. We're not allowed to mention the preview show, but this isn't a prediction. This is just something that you certainly put out there, and I think it's very right to do so. And I'm going to bring it back up again now. The coach can only be as good as the players that the sporting director signs for him. You've got to give the coach the tools to they missed out on the playoffs last year by not very much. They absolutely had to get a striker in for me, and that's the sporting director's decisions and the sporting director's responsibility as much as it is. Well, it's completely his. It's not Gallegos' responsibility at all. I cannot believe for a minute Gallego didn't want another striker. And I don't believe all this nonsense about not having any money. Look at the players that were out there this summer: Borja Baston, Enrique Gallego, Alfredo Ortuña, Sergi Henrich has been clubless for months before Ponfe picked him up. Are you seriously telling me that Sporting can't afford any of those strikers? I just don't believe it. I can't believe any of those strikers would have had wage demands that would have been out of Sporting's league. I think Gallego has every reason to feel quite unhappy, although he's obviously not going to say anything about it in public.
And I looked into this, Liam, actually. Sporting's salary cap is roughly the same as Real Oviedo's, give or take a few €100,000. So by that logic, they could have afforded the aforementioned Borja Baston that you just brought up a moment ago, if indeed they had tried to sign him. Talking of unhappy coaches, Liam, Pepe Mel won't be a happy man. His Las Palmas side are dropping away after a bad run. Their defeat at Butarque this weekend was their third in a row. Should their fans be worried that they are doing a Sporting?
I think so. The simple answer to that is yes. I think 9 goals conceded in the last 4 games. I think that's a real concern for them. That points to the sort of relatively calamitous goals against column that they had last year in the league. And again, at this weekend, I mean, he's talked about it, Pepe Mel, over the last couple of weeks. Key moment in the game. They are losing 2-0, so they're up against it already. They have a fantastic chance, which for me, if they take it, gives the game an entirely different complexion. Mujica's 1-on-1 with the keeper, completely fluffs it. Lega score soon afterwards to make it 3-0. And the game's over. As far as I'm concerned, that's a really worrying sign. They're not defending well enough. They're not taking their chances. It keeps happening 3 times in a row now. I mean, surely we have to worry that they're heading the same way as Sporting.
I don't agree with you, to be honest. And I think there is some serious context around this one. Okay, defensive issues, goals conceded in the games that you mentioned. Yes, that does concern me a little bit. They are shipping goals. But the results don't overall. This game against Leganes aside, yes, this was a particularly poor result. But look, this is a resurgent Leganes. This is not a Leganes who, other teams have been playing and rolling over before Nafti arrived. It's now a resurgent Leganes. And they are performing as we know that they can. Las Palmas' performances have been good outside of this match. Their defeat to your boys, Real Zaragoza, was a freak one for me. We talked about it on the show. They win that game 9 times out of 10, I think. And then against Malaga, again, we spoke at length last week, so I don't need to repeat myself. But, I said quite clearly that I thought even with 10 men, Las Palmas were the better team. And they had significantly more chances than Malaga. And if it had been 11 against 11 for the entire match, it would have been, it would likely have been a different story. They need to get themselves, long and short of it, back to the island, home sweet home. Their home form is their base, and their away form is not great, but it's good enough to get them there or thereabouts for top 6 with their home form as it is. And realistically, that's their aim this season. I know there might be a few Las Palmas fans that are eyeing up that second spot, but if they finish in the top 6, that's a terrific achievement for them. Leganes, though, they are seriously improving under Nafti, and they've got to be considered as top 6 contenders now as well. They're just 6 points off the top 6, with plenty of road ahead of them in the season to come. Struggling for goals for much of the season. They've certainly found a way in recent weeks, haven't they, Liam?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, 8 goals in 4 games now they've managed. They look like one of those teams as well that are going to be very, very difficult to break down all season once they get in front, which is why I felt it was really important for Las Palmas to take that chance for Mujica to convert it, because I thought for once that might actually start to ask the question of them. Generally, when I've seen them, especially last Monday against Zaragoza, they just look like they're never, ever going to lose the game for being in front. And Nafti has instilled in them that ability to be very hard to break down once they go in front. I mean, I have to say about Nafti, I was pretty underwhelmed by the appointment in the first place, but he certainly made me eat my words so far. But the next 4 games, Alex: Girona, Ponfe, Malaga away at La Rosaleda, not at home, otherwise that would be a shoo-in, wouldn't it? And Real Valladolid. So let's see where they are after those 4 games before we start really seriously judging their top 6 credentials. But certainly the signs are far more promising than they were for much of the season under Garitano. Talking of top 6 credentials, our doubts about Ponfe's capacity to fill one of those places has once again been called into question in recent weeks, hasn't it, Alex?
Well, another victory, Liam, for Ponfe, and they are really cementing their place in the top 6 under John Bolo. After Oscar Silva had left for Eibar in the summer, they obviously paid his buyout clause. The club took that money. I think the biggest transfer the club had ever received, Ponfe. They reinvested that into about 52 different signings. And I have to say that I did seriously doubt whether they could be anywhere near where they finished last season. Of course, just missing out on the playoffs. You know, take a team's best player away, lose a lot of the loanee signings. Ponfe historically have been made up of a lot of loanee signings, and then add a bunch of new ones with a smattering of old players. And it just didn't seem to fit. I should not have doubted John Bolo, should I? Because they're just incredibly solid. And in this game, they arguably got a touch of fortune with the penalty. And I say arguably because I'm arguing with myself over this one. I've watched the replay multiple times and I still can't make my mind up as to whether or not it was a penalty or it wasn't a penalty. So I guess in that situation, stick with the on-field decision. The referee was about 10 yards away. So, you know, he clearly saw something that, well, there was contact. So Ponfe, though, they have to take immense credit. They defended particularly well in this game in the second half when Ibiza pushed on a little bit more, trying to get the goal. And even though they were playing against an Ibiza team who are firing blanks at the minute, credit really has to go to Ponfe. They kept Ibiza at arm's length, and there wasn't really too much in terms of clear opportunities for Ibiza despite their pressure. And in fact, Ponfe almost went on the counter a couple of times and picked them off for a second goal, but they didn't quite manage that. There were 2 of our regular listeners and friends of the show. In fact, I know there were more than 2 of our regular listeners at the game, but 2 of our regular listeners who were at the game, friends of the show, Oliver Merlin and Chris Pigeon, one on the Ibiza side of the fence, the other on the Ponfe side of the fence. They were both at the game. Let's have a quick listen to what they had to say following the match.
Good evening, everyone. This is Oliver Merlin, my co-commentator Jean-Jacques Merlin. Say hello.
Hello.
We're back home now, reflecting on our game. Another 1-0 loss. Second 1-0 loss at home to a top team, Ponferradina. And another 1-0 home loss to a penalty, which is a shame. But it's a game of 2 halves. We were much better in the second half after going down 1-0. And Carcedo, our manager, really didn't help our cause by leaving our best centre-back Goldar on the bench and our best attacker Castel on the bench. He rectified these strange decisions in the second half, and we looked much more threatening and felt it really could have been 1-1. Yeah, onwards and upwards. Anything to add to that, Georgette?
Well, just in the last couple 10 minutes, they were creating so many chances. I could feel the goal coming, just like last game against Almeria.
Yeah, but there you go. I think we know where we are now. We haven't got the firepower to kind of deal with teams when we go 1-0 down, especially teams at the top and who are going to be challenging for promotion. But we can hold our own when our starting 11's out, and let's just hope that our manager doesn't keep leaving our best players on the bench.
We were fantastic in the first half and deserved the lead, even if the penalty was a bit of a close call. In the second half, Ibiza came out and were possibly the better side, but didn't do much to hurt us. We had a couple of chances on the counter-attack, but I think we deserved the 3 points, and I'm so delighted to go up to second. I'd also like to say thanks to Oliver and Martin for making my stay in Ibiza such a happy one, And even though it was cold, the 3 points head back to Ponferrada with me. Vamos Ponfe.
Thanks to them both for their recordings, and great to hear Mini Merlin in there too, a future pundit in the making for sure. If you're listening and you go to the grounds and fancy getting involved, then send us a DM on Twitter or an email, which is SpanishSegundaShow@gmail.com. If you fancy recording a quick audio just after you've come out of the grounds from any Segunda game, then yeah, please do get in touch and let us know. Liam, what else caught your eye this weekend?
I have to say, Alex, that sadly the Amorebieta Real Zaragoza game caught my eye for a full 95 minutes. I did say a couple of weeks ago after that run of 3 wins in a row that they'd probably get 1 point out of 9 from the next 3 games. They've got Eibar next week. They've got 1 point out of 6 so far. I think that's probably going to come true, isn't it, unfortunately? Fantastic effort from the Real Zaragoza fans. Over 1,000 in attendance at Lezama. It's a 6-hour round trip from Zaragoza, let's not forget. They outnumbered the home fans. And unfortunately, the team repaid them with a pretty pitiful performance. There's no lack of effort, but they just aren't very good at breaking down mass tracks of defence. No real creative spark in midfield. No real pace anywhere in the side. It really was very painful to watch. They played against 10 men, as you said, for the last half an hour. I don't remember one shot on goal. Not even off target. Appalling. Fair play to Amorebieta, though. I think they're very much like Lugo without the gamesmanship, although they did show a fair amount of it in the last 10 minutes when they were hanging on. They just know how they want to play. They play to those strengths. They're tremendously committed to the cause. One amusing footnote, Alex, Real Zaragoza fans singing Y Viva España, obviously alluding to the fact that the people of the Basque Country are not desperately keen on being part of Spain, and not surprisingly, singing their song, a nice patriotic Spanish song, was loudly whistled by the home fans, which was probably almost the most entertaining moment of the game from a Zaragoza point of view. Happier sights for my eyes this weekend with the Mirandés and Real Oviedo goals. Brilliant opener from Sergio Camello for Mirandés. I think he may be the lone signing of the season so far in Segunda. An equally superb equaliser from Ayas against his former club. One last thing before we move on to the league table, Alex. Lloyd Ether's second yellow card not overturned, upheld by the referees commission this week. Words fail me, to be honest. But let's get on to the league table before we get back to that.
Well, just how wrong were we,
Clearly, totally wrong, along with everybody else who saw it as a dive. Anyway, enough of that. That was last week. This is this. Tell me about the league table, Alex.
Yeah, if anyone wants to miss our opinion on that, then there's about 30 minutes worth of audio from last week on it. So go and dig in for your boots. Let's take a look at the league table. Almeria remain top of the pile on 41 points. But fourth placed Eibar will move to within 6 points of them if they can overcome Girona at Ipurua in the matchday 18 Monday night game. Tenerife are second for the moment on 33 points, level on points with third placed Ponfe and a point clear of Real Valladolid in fifth. Las Palmas will end the week in the final playoff position in spite of 3 successive losses, unless Girona can pull off an unlikely win on the road against Eibar. Cartagena, Oviedo and Malaga all failed to secure the win, which would have allowed one of them to take Pepe Mel's side's place in the top 6. At the bottom, Alcorcón and Amorebieta both avoided defeat, but their draws do, well, pretty much nothing for their survival prospects, as 7 of the 8 teams immediately above them also picked up points. A 5th defeat in 6 deepens the gloom for Xabi Alonso's Real Sociedad as they remain 17th, whilst Fuenla occupy the final relegation spot. Shall we take a little look forwards towards match day 19, Liam? What stands out for you?
I think what stands out for me, Alex, is that I won't be able to watch my beloved Real Zaragoza this week, as I'll still be at work. However, given that, as I mentioned already, they're playing Eibar, that's probably a blessing in disguise. Just one game on Saturday, but it will be interesting to see how Almeria cope with the trip to the Fernando Torres to play Fuenla. I think I'll also be quite interested to see whether Real Valladolid can break down Huesca on their own patch and thus keep the pressure on the top 2. How about you?
Well, just before I say what I'm looking forward to, Liam mentioned a moment ago that he would be at work. That's because it's the El Puente holiday here in Spain. We love a bank holiday here in Spain. Many people, many workers have Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So the first Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of December off, myself included. So, yeah, just thought I'd rub that in for Liam and I guess for everybody else that doesn't live in Spain. Sorry, guys. I'm going to break one of my own rules, actually, and mention a game which we won't be able to talk about on the show because it's the Monday night match. A resurgent Girona host a resurgent Leganes. So something has to give in that one.
Yeah, can I just point out that you also broke your own rule last week by mentioning Eibar Girona as one to watch on the show, which was the Monday night game. Probably because I'd already nicked all the good matches to mention, though, to be fair to you.
Well, that's just because I've been well brought up, Liam, and I always allow you to pick first. It's age before beauty, remember. Before all of that action in Segunda next weekend, of course, we've got the small matter midweek of the Copa del Rey, which starts in the well, depends when you're listening to it, but this midweek. All of the higher league position sides are drawn, remember, in this new Copa del Rey structure. I think it's 12 months old now. Higher league sides are drawn away from home against lower league sides. So many Segunda sides will be facing RFEF 2 and RFEF 1 sides this midweek, including my hometown club here in Mallorca, Andratx, who are of the RFEF 2. They are hosting Real Oviedo, and I will be there. That is as long as I can get a ticket in the mad scramble, because the ground, it's a tiny village. The ground only holds about 600. So, if I manage to get in, I'll tell you about it next week. If I don't, I might actually just go and stand on the road next to it because you can still see the game.
Last place standing. It's my turn to go through this again this week, isn't it? So I'm still not in it. 14 players left at the start of this game week. Real mix of selections. Starts to thin out a little bit this week. I have to say we lost a few people because people have used up their big guns in the first few weeks. Complete carnage, some might suggest. Lives lost for draws. Few have fallen foul and dropped out of the game altogether. People who chose Almeria lost a life. People who chose Las Palmas, they're out. 4 people who chose Real Valladolid are through. But I mean, they must be running out of options if they're choosing Real Valladolid now. Malaga away. What on earth? What were you thinking? Almeria and Real Zaragoza both cost people lives as well. I mean, who's got what left for next week? That's what I'm asking. But all will be revealed, I suppose, with your replies in due course. In the meantime, keep an eye out for that tweet announcing that entries are open for next weekend.
Are you not going to ask, Liam?
Are you still in it?
I am indeed still in it. I was one of the 4 people that picked Real Valladolid. 5 weeks in, 5 victories. Actually, I'm regretting saying this now because last time I said nothing about how I was doing, and then I said on the show about how I was doing, and I did a bit of a gloat about how I was still in, and that was the week that I got knocked out.
Knocked out next week,
I regret that. We'll have to wait and see how I get on. Right, that's all we've got time for on this show. Goodbye from me.
Hasta la vista.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and remember, Segunda doesn't mean second best. No me digas que me quieres.